Pushing the literature to you. In a previous presentation, we reviewed how to perform a basic search with a focus on PubMed searches. This approach is utilized when you have a focused question or interest. But how do you keep current generally on relevant publications related to areas of interest? There are basically three approaches. Of course, there is the social media route, which requires some time and attention. For professionals, it's more common to use two other approaches. One is to sign up on websites that provide a constant stream of updates to your email. This is valuable, but can be overwhelming with regard to your email workload, and it's not necessarily your choice of what is important or relevant to your practice. A more efficient approach is using what is called syndication feeds or simply feeds. It's easy to feel unequipped to approach this new delivery system, but we'll take some time later in the presentation to direct you through that process. Frankly, if you can set up an email account, you can set up syndication feed subscriptions. Let's start with where a chiropractor might be most interested in looking for updates. The first approach was presented in the PubMed video and focused on what are called clinical queries. Here's what that looked like. Although there are many services that provide updates, we'll narrow this down to a few and use them to illustrate the different functionality of each. Here's a list of what we'll cover: the TRIP database, the British Medical Journal Evidence Updates, the Centers for Review and Dissemination's DARE database, and PEDRO, the Physiotherapy Evidence Database. We'll use screenshots to illustrate the process by which to access each of these resources. Let's begin with the TRIP database. It's at www.tripdatabase.com. At the top, we can see the free registration link. Let's do that. Here we can see the usual registration requests such as username, password, and the security code. Next, they want to narrow your focus, so you have the option of checking off boxes for the area or areas of interest you may have. For chiropractors, this might include orthopedics, physical medicine, and/or primary care. Next, choose your specialty. This is your choice. Physician or other are probably fine. You can then focus on a more detailed list of topics later. Now, when you log in, your profile has created categories of updates and the number of them to the right of the screen. Let's click on Manipulation. Now you see the power of this site. Look at the layout here. To the left, we have the evidence listed under Types of Evidence and the number of pubs in each. In the center, we have the most recent publications for manipulation. And to the far right, we have associated items such as Medline publications, clinical trials, and related articles. A click on any of these will lead to an exponential source of other publications. Now, let's move on to the British Medical Journal's Evidence Updates. We will see an added feature not provided in the TRIP database. Here we can see the logic of this site. It's based on having scientists and clinicians review articles and rate them for two things: relevance and newsworthiness. You can simply go to this site for recent publications of interest in general, or similar to the TRIP database, sign up for updates. These will be sent to your email address. Again, you're prompted to pick specialties, but this time you also have two other options. One is to select how often you receive those updates, and secondly, you get to choose the threshold for the two categories of relevance and newsworthiness. Let's play with these. The scale is 1 to 7. Here we've chosen 5 for each. You can see by week the number of publications that meet this rating requirement. Let's raise the threshold to 6, meaning more relevant and more newsworthy. Here we see some changes, but still a significant number of publications. Now to 7. Look what happened. It's rare for publications to receive the highest rating for relevance and/or newsworthiness. Probably better to stay around 5. Like most of these databases, you can also do a quick search using standard PubMed approaches. Here's an example for manipulation and low back pain. It's current and quite robust. Let's click on the Braunford article on supervised exercise. Now you see the difference. Here's what you get: the abstract and the average ratings for relevance and newsworthiness based on discipline. Additionally, you can read through thought-stimulating comments by the reviewers. You may not agree, but they will stimulate your thinking. Next, a combination of databases at the Center for Review and Dissemination. These are the DARE, the NHS-EED, and the HTA databases. Let's start with a simple search similar to that of PubMed. We'll begin with migraine and manipulation. What becomes clear here is that DARE deals with systematic reviews, the NHS-EED on economic issues, and the HTA mainly on medical technologies. Let's choose the article on exercise and migraine, a critical review. Here we can see the difference. The review of the review is by an individual. The advantage is this is an individual considered to be an expert. The disadvantage, as we'll see, is that the individual may be biased. First, look at the advantage of having a pre-review. Right from the beginning, you see a summary of the article and author conclusions, then a detailing of how the study was structured and conducted. Next is a commentary, which is often very valuable at pointing out strengths and weaknesses. Most importantly, statements are then made about how to use the findings of this study either in practice or for designing future research. But wait, here's the concern. Many of you may recognize this author, Ernst, who has made it his lifelong goal to destroy complementary and alternative medicine with a focused target on chiropractic. Reading through his review, his lack of objectivity becomes quite obvious. But think of it from the positive side. Knowing his concerns and criticisms allows you to better answer questions posed to you by medical doctors and others who likely have read his work. Next, one of the more commonly used subscriptions for email updates, MedLinks. Don't let the MD title scare you off or turn you off. There can be some very valuable information here. To get a sense of what the format and functionality is, let's click on a specialty. We'll start with orthopedics. Much of this is surgical, but occasionally there is an article on a conservative option. Continue by clicking on other related specialties such as preventive medicine, neurology, or family practice. If you're interested, click on the View Samples and Register link to the right. Here's what you see, typical registration fields, and also where you choose the specialty or specialties. Let's say we chose orthopedics. Here's where MD Links offers a unique feature. You can choose or choose not to receive daily or weekly updates on very specific subspecialties such as by joint, radiology, popular press releases, pediatrics, etc. Another valuable resource is Pedro. This is a physiotherapy-generated evidence database. To get a sense of value here, we'll click on the Updates link. Once again, we see the option for choosing a specialty, this time without a required registration for usage. Let's click on Orthopedics. Here we can see a filtering to topics somewhat more resonant to a chiropractor. To the right, we see the type of article and a rating score if the article is not a systematic review. Let's go back to the Topics page and click on the Sports Update. This might be even more appealing for those chiropractors who focus on sports. If you click on one of these articles, it will simply take you to the abstract of that article. Now, that scary little icon you probably have noticed but not dare click on. This symbol is one of several that indicate what is called a feed. This specific symbol is often next to the letters RSS, which stands for Really Simple Syndication. In fact, this is the larger concept, syndication. There are certainly others, including XML and Atom. Feeds require a site that sends the feed and a site that receives it at the other end. The site that receives the feed must then have what's called a reader, and there are many to choose from. When you're at a specific site and want to subscribe to a feed, there are often options as indicated here. For demonstration purposes, we'll use the popular Google Reader. Go to Google's homepage and click on the More link on the upper right. Then click on Reader. Go through the registration process simply using your email and creating a password. When you enter Google and click on More and on Reader, you'll see something similar to this. They give you a quick tutorial to get you familiar with some hotkey maneuvering through your feeds. So let's add a feed to your reader. Here's the home page for the Spine Journal. At the upper right, we see the RSS feed and icon. We'll click on that, and here's what appears. You have two choices. One, to get the current issue feed of article contents, and/or to get the articles in press feed. If we were using another reader, we could simply click on one of those icons, such as My Yahoo or My AOL, but we have the Google Reader and there is no apparent icon to click on. Okay, the one slightly techie thing you need to do. Copy the URL for the Google Reader. Do this by highlighting and right-clicking. Now, go to your Google Reader page and click on the Subscribe button. You'll see a field open. Click in the field and paste the URL you just copied and click Add. That's all there is to it. Here you can see what appears as the feed for the Spine Journal. We'll look later on how to maneuver through these forward and backward. At the top middle of the page is the Feed Settings menu dropdown. Clicking on that allows you to do a lot of customizing, but a feature that is very valuable is to click on More Like This. This opens up suggested other RSS feeds from sources similar to the feed you're viewing. It saves time if you don't know where to go for information. You might notice here that one of the suggestions is JMPT, a chiropractic journal. Let's do another one. We'll go back to the Center for Reviews and Dissemination homepage, and you can see on the middle left banner RSS. Let's click on that. Here we can see an option to subscribe to one of the 3 databases at the CRD. Let's click on the DARE RSS feed. Now, a browser lesson. If you're using Internet Explorer, this is what you'll see. It gives you a sample of the feed and the ability to subscribe to the feed. When you click on the Subscribe to Feed link, a window pops up that allows you to subscribe, but to the Microsoft or Internet Explorer feed. This is not the case for all sites, but definitely for some. Let's do that and see what happens. In the Internet Explorer window in the upper right, click on the star and then choose Feeds. Well, there it is. Click on it and this is what you'll see. You can now review as you might in Google Reader, but with less functionality. So how do you subscribe to the Google Reader feed? You have to use another browser. In this case, we're going to use Firefox. Now, let's click on the RSS link again and see what appears. Now we see a different screen with a Live Bookmarks drop-down menu. Clicking on that drop-down menu reveals our Google Reader option. Click on that and the Subscribe Now link. Now, click on Add to Google Reader, enter in your email and password, and click Sign In, and it's added. Now that we've added 2 feeds using screenshots, let's do a real-time review of the process by adding an RSS feed for the periodicals JMPT and Spine. Now in real time, let's add a couple of RSS feeds to the Google Reader, and we'll also look at the Microsoft Reader. Let's start first with JMPT. Here's the home page, which you can Google, and we can see the table of contents. In the upper right, we can see the RSS feed. Let's click on that. Now, if you have another reader, such as My AOL or My Yahoo, you can click directly on that icon. They don't have an icon for Google Reader, so we need to copy and paste the URL. highlight, right-click, copy, go to Google Reader, hit subscribe, paste the URL, and click Add. And there you have it, the RSS feed for the JMPT periodical. Another interesting feature that you should take advantage of is under Settings. Click on the drop-down menu and go to More Like This. And here we can see a list of publications that are related that you might be interested in. Here's an example going further down to Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy. If we click on that, we can actually see another list, but we can also subscribe to this particular periodical's feed. Click on Subscribe, and there we have it. There's the RSS feed for that particular journal. Now let's go to Manual Therapy. Again, here's the home page that you can Google. Upper right, click on RSS feed. Same options. We're going to highlight and copy the URL. Go to our Google Reader, hit subscribe, paste, and then click Add. Now, one interesting thing that sometimes happens is what you're looking at now. So what you need to do is one further step. Click on Subscribe. Click down on the bottom under Subscriptions for the RSS feed, and there you have the RSS feed for Manual Therapy. Now let's go to Spine. Here's one for Editor's Picks. Further down for Most Popular. And further down for Table of Contents. Let's click on that RSS. Now we see an option to subscribe. We'll click on that, but find that we don't have the option of Google Reader. If you do click on subscribe, you're adding it to your Microsoft Window Reader. So let's go to the top here where the star is in the upper right, click on that, and under Feeds, we see that it's been added. If we click on that Spine RSS, we now see the feed for Spine. Let's go back to our Google Reader. And we see the table of contents. Using J, we can move to the next article. Using K, we can move back. Using S, we can actually save that article, and you see that a star appears. Hitting S again unmarks it. I hope this spurs your interest in RSS feeds and other opportunities to keep current with the literature.